Hey YouTube, Sam here. Well, I'm going to open this up off camera. And it came with the instructions. Looks like an Allen tool and a set of brushes here. Which, it's always nice to get a set of brushes. If you change your brushes out when they start getting worn, it'll make machines anyways, electric machines, work longer. Then you get your cutter here, which feels surprisingly fairly heavy. On the back here, hopefully you can see that. You push down on it and there's this same as my chop saw that for cutting wood. Just kind of a little knob here pulling it out, which allows that to lift up and down. Something you'll notice, it does not come with a cutting wheel, so you will have to get your own cutting wheel. From all the research I've done, I would highly recommend going and getting something that's not from Harbor Freight. It seems like everybody that tries to use the Harbor Freight cutoff wheels on these wind up regretting it at some point. I went ahead and picked up this at Home Depot. I've had some fairly good experience with Diablo stuff, so I picked that up. Admittedly, I did watch a video, and if I can find the name of the guy, I'll put it in down below here. Hopefully I can. He did a pretty good video on testing a bunch of different types of things, and first of all, it didn't matter what it was, Harbor Freight ones did not work very well. But he also noticed that the 1/8 inch or 3mm says on there for all the people that don't go by the same measurements I do in the US, that the thicker ones actually worked better than the thinner ones with this particular machine. That's the other thing. This is the Chicago electric one, the $99 one. I had a 25% off coupon for the holiday stuff and went ahead and used that on this. So I got like grand total 80 bucks into this thing, plus $7 for the wheel here. So they aren't too bad as far as expense. You can get them cheaper online, but I didn't want to wait. Anyhow, but the one he tested was a Stanley one, which a lot of people seem to rave on the Stanley one. So we'll see. Hopefully this will work just as good or better. He did say the thicker ones, or showed that the thicker ones seem to work better with this machine. So that's what I went ahead and got. So 1/8 inch, 14 inch, 1 inch around here for the arbor, or 25.4mm. So that's what the arbor is here. So right here there's a piece that you push on and turn this until it locks in, or hold on to it. Once it locks in, it should stay. There we go. And we're going to pull the arbor nut off here. And this wrench did come with the machine. So you got the washer and the nut. You got another one of these, and you got this one, which is it'll come off, but you want to leave that for testing purposes. And these are kind of keyed a certain way. Make sure they're directionally the way you want them. And that does seem a little bit thick, actually. Definitely barely on there. So honestly, I am going to do a little bit more research before I, all in all, do this. And make sure it's okay to run one that's this thick. And you probably can't see anything through my arm. And you just want to snug it down. You don't have to reef on these. Okay, that does seem to be turning. I'm going to look again and make sure it doesn't specifically say not to use one of these of that thickness before I start things here. So I perused through here, really didn't see anything. I'm going to go with it. I think all in all, I'm pretty happy with it. This is that locking mechanism I was telling you about. You're going to turn it until it hits that, and then you can tighten and loosen however much you want. Alright, next thing, extension cord. Now it does say in the book, it tells you if you got a 25-foot extension cord or whatever size extension cord, what size extension cord you should use. I think a lot of people that say that these are underpowered, although I don't know yet, I have not used it, but I would assume there's a good chance if you're using too small of an extension cord, it will dramatically decrease not only the life of your motor, but the power of your motor output. So that's something you got to think about when you're using things like this. Then you got the handle here. You got your lock switch and the handle. I will say they really cheeseballed these lock switch and handle. The handle doesn't feel too bad, but it's cheap feeling plastic. The rest of it not so bad. I mean, it's cheap, but it's not horrible. The other thing, there's a little bit of play in here, and someday I might worry about that, but these are not meant to cut down to the nth degree perfectly. They're to get you in the ballpark, and then you clean it up from there. Other thing, it's got a stop that stops on there, so it looks like I can make it go down further. Right now I'm not going to mess with their settings, we'll just keep it that way. Like I said, this is the Chicago Electric one, so it's a little bit more expensive. All in all, it does seem a little bit better as far as it's supposedly a more powerful motor. And this part of it seems like it was a little bit more solid, not a ton. The big thing I did notice is the spring in here, all this stuff does seem quite a bit better than it was on the other one I saw. And I think it's like $79 or something. So the other thing, you got your quick disconnect, which if it's tight, you aren't going to get that off. You got to loosen it up, pull that out, and you can bring this forward and back. When I was playing with it actually earlier, I had trouble making this go back and forth. And it turned out the cotter key that they had holding, there's like a little washer that holds this on back here. That was getting in the way of it. So do that a few times and it'll kind of self-clear to where it's working better. And you flip that over and tighten it down. It appears that this works in here. There's two things you got to loosen here, which pivots it to the degrees of whatever it is you're trying to cut. I'm assuming this is probably really inaccurate, but we'll find out. I will do that. I just cut myself. Yep, I just cut myself on the edge of this cutting wheel. So the edges are very sharp when you're first starting. I just brought my knuckle underneath there and cut it. So be careful. You are responsible for your own safety. You choose what kind of safety equipment you want to use behind something like this. I suggest you at very least read the manual and do what they say to do. Other thing, which I'm about to do, I'm going to plug this in. I'm not going to put anything in it, and I'm going to sit here and hold the motor, and I am going to break this in. I'm going to look on here. I looked in the manual and I didn't see anything on the fact that the motor should be broken in, but any electric motor that has brushes, you need to break them in. You want to sit there and just run them for a few minutes, you know, at least a minute or so, if not a little bit more, and it wears these brushes in so that it seats itself to the motor, so to speak. I don't know exactly how to do it, but it's kind of similar to when you do brakes on a car. You want to seat your brakes in, and same thing with an electric motor that has brushes, especially. I don't know about the non-brushed ones, never had one, but you want to run these for a while and let it break it in. And I'm about to break it in. I got it plugged in now, just right into a socket, so I don't have an extension cord on it. First thing I'm going to do is just a little bit and give it a little bit of a pull. Alright, everything seems and sounds alright. I'll be honest, I'm already smelling a burnt smell. So, we're going to go ahead and run it for a while and see what happens. If I see lots of smoke, then we got a problem. But it could just be, like I was saying, really you do want to, you're going to smell some stuff, and that's these breaking in. I won't make you watch the whole thing. I'm just going to get it started. Actually one more thing. When you're using this, you want your right hand on the trigger. I see a lot of people sitting out over the top of this with their, you know, holding their piece and doing this thing. Not only is this actually technically not made to do left-handed, I'm sure if you're careful, it really doesn't matter. But if this were to shatter and go flying, it would be better to be standing over here than standing right in front of it. So I'm going to actually move you before I start this, and I'm going to break this thing in. So I've unplugged this. We're all good. I found a couple things so far I don't like about it. It does seem to shake quite a bit, and this really rattles back and forth a lot. And it's got little bumpers here, because they obviously know it's going to rattle. And it doesn't feel like it's shaking that much in my hand, and it didn't look like the blade was wobbling that much. But this is definitely moving a lot, so I'm just going to really quickly see if and like I said, I did unplug it. See if I can tighten this maybe a little bit, just to maybe take some slack out of it. And this is the up and down one, so you can't tighten this one too much, or it will stop on you. So I think they have like an anti-seize stuff in there. Quite honestly, I'm going to do my first modification, and I'm going to put a small washer behind here. And the other one that you should be able to tighten, which this was really loose. Okay, there's a nut in here, like an acorn nut. So I'm going to go ahead and modify it. I'm going to go ahead and tighten that up a little bit, because there's way more plate, and I can really move that around in there. So I'm going to tighten that up a little bit. I'm going to pull this a little bit loose. I'm going to put a washer in here, and we're just going to go ahead and start some modifications on this and see if we can make anything better. So I found a little washer, so I'm just kind of snugging it up, and I'm letting that fall. And if it doesn't fall fairly quickly, it's not doing its job. So this, and I got this new Loctite. And it's not a sponsor. I'm just telling you about it because I never heard of it. It's this orange thread locker. It's not Loctite, it's Permatex. High strength but removable. It's supposed to hold similar to blue, but actually come off a little bit easier when you want to remove it. Yet again, I can hopefully tighten this up, but hopefully that doesn't mess things up either. What is it? 10 millimeter. Alright. Well, I'm going to put it all back together. We'll test it out and see if that did anything. See if that did anything. Definitely goes down a little bit slower, so make sure that that's down before you use this thing. Definitely takes a little while for it to spin down, but that dramatically helped. I hope you could tell that in video, but that actually helped. Just adjusting probably this screw more than anything, if you didn't want to mess with this one, but it definitely helped quite a bit to take the rattle out of that, because it wasn't actually hitting anymore. So, little bit of adjustment. Yet again, Harbor Freight. Plan on doing a few things to make it better. And the other thing people seem to be conundrum to buy, I don't know if I'm using that word correctly, but is this fourth pad. Why don't they use this rubber pad here? Well, I'll tell you why I think. I'm just going to spitball here. I'm not positive. But I would assume it's because all the sparks were coming down here and melting the rubber pad that was sitting here at one point that they designed into it. and they realized that wasn't going to work, so then they just put this metal one on here. My personal fix would be to take that metal, put like another one on here, and take a metal piece and put it in right around here somewhere that covers up that other one, and then you'd have 4 rubber mounts to set it on. I do have plans for doing some modifications this later on. I want to make sure that it's going to work well for a period of time before I put a bunch of time or anything into it, and then have to take it back and have them go, oh, you modified this, sorry, we're not going to warranty it. But regardless, let's find some stuff to cut. I was kind of getting ready to set this up and do some cuts, and I put this on here and went to put it kind of over that way, and noticed it hits. And all the way up here, this is either high or this rolls down and is low. I'm hoping that's the case, because there's definitely a gap in this area when I put this across here all the way down. So yet again, this is not to be the end-all be-all precision machine. It's never going to be perfect. Not even more expensive ones are going to be perfect. Yeah, more expensive ones are probably going to be better, but they're still not going to be perfect. Something I just noticed here, appears if you have a larger piece that then will fit in between here, there are 2 more holes that you can put these in and bring this back here. So you can move this forward and back, it appears. Something I didn't know until just now. Alright. I thought about doing this, but I do know that you don't really want to cut flat stuff. It makes it a lot more difficult. And that right there is not going to work this direction. So that's something I'm going to have to mess with as far as cutting flat stuff, but I'm not going to use up my blade right off the bat, cut something flat like that. And I probably wouldn't cut a whole lot of that regardless. So the first thing I'm going to do, I got a piece of this that's off my old welding table, just a chunk of round bar of some sort here. And it's got boogers all over it, and it's not cut straight, but this will be a good representation of cutting through some round stuff. It's pretty solidly thick stuff too, so I'm going to put that in here, put that forward, and we'll see how well this holds around stock. Okay, that felt like I probably did it a little bit too tight, because it definitely, this is one of those places where you probably got to be somewhat careful with this thing. I'm sure that's not the most high quality stuff, and I don't want to strip it out, but it's holding it pretty solid in here. I can, you know, lift up the machine. And I'm sure that's going to be hot, so be careful. And this is one of those things, if you choose to, you should probably have a full face mask, but I made this out of a welding helmet, and I actually like it, but whether or not that'll save your bacon, I don't know. You can choose to do what you want. So, made a pretty good cut. Not the completely flattest cut I've ever seen. Let's see if it's what it looks like on this edge. Definitely some stuff on it, but it's fairly clean. Wouldn't take much to clean that up. I do see that it definitely is not, let's see if I can get this. There we go. It's not the flattest cut. I'll full on admit that. So it's a little bit wobbly, which is probably the blade somewhat, but and I probably was pushing maybe a little bit too hard, but not horrible. This stuff's the stuff. It's really thick, some thick stuff. There you go. That's really thick stuff. I don't know exactly what it is. It's at least 1/4 inch, I would say. Thick. I don't want to use too much of this, so I'm going to try and cut a fairly small sliver of this. I also don't want it to fall down in here and bind up. Well, that just lifted this piece up a little bit, so I'll hold it down here. Definitely kind of almost wishing this actually could come even further over, just because this seems to lift up a little bit when you really tighten it. I'm going to reset this up because it's throwing a lot more sparks than I want, and I don't mind if they come out the direction that I'm filming right now, but I don't want them going back towards my wooden wall here. So just for safety purposes, I am going to turn this around. Alright, it doesn't seem to want to cut through the flats. Same as I had the problem before. It's getting through there, but I really think the better way of doing this, you got this machine and you're having trouble getting through, probably let off, put that in there, figure out where it's cutting against, put it on its side like that. Because there's no use in wasting the blade or anything else, and it cuts through the straight parts pretty easy. It definitely cut this one flatter. There's one spot where I don't know what happened right here. It kind of wobbled out. It's definitely hot, really hot. So you gotta be careful. Definitely have gloves on if you're doing this, and give it a while. But it seems like a better cut, and the thicker stuff took quite a bit. And I will say, you know, it might cut if you can do it at an angle, kind of like angle iron. Make some sort of a way of putting it in there like that. It might actually cut faster. I don't know. But at the very least, you know, get through it. The top's going to take a little while. Get through it. Then flip it over and finish it off. Is this machine so far any better than, you know, what I was doing before? If you've watched that one where I converted my woodworking one into a metal cutting, it's definitely better. It's definitely safer. I got all the safety stuff working on this one as to where with the wood one I was not doing it the safest way. And I'm not worrying about beating this machine up a little bit or anything like that. So as to where my woodworking one, you know, I want it to stay somewhat better, and I've beat it up more than I wanted to so far doing the metal work. It probably wouldn't last a lot longer doing metalworking stuff. So that worked really well for that. I don't know if you can see it, but there's always going to be some burrs on here. Definitely got to be a cleanup, but it actually looks, I think the blade's actually starting to kind of come into its own here a little bit, because it definitely looks real flat there. Pretty happy with that. That's dead on there. This angle to the side of this, dead on. So I use angle iron and bed frame for quite a few things, so that's a lot of what I'd be cutting anyway. So that makes me pretty happy. I'm all in all pretty happy with it. Well, Am I happy with it? Yeah, I'm happy with it. For the 80 bucks, it'll do what I need to do. Maybe not as quick, maybe not quite as good as a lot of other ones, but I'm not a professional at most anything I need to do, and this will get it done faster than trying to use, and straighter. That's my biggest thing. Then trying to use one of these here. I've gotten fairly proficient with these, but I still never get it dead on. And even though this isn't going to be dead on perfect, it'll be better than what I can do with this, and quicker, and probably safer, all in all. Because once again, you're responsible for your own safety. I don't use the guards on these ones just because I cannot get a precise cut when I need to. I may start using the guards on those ones more because I have this, so it may be safer that way as well. All in all, for the price, therein lies the whole debate of anything you want to say. The price. You cannot find another machine that'll do this job for anywhere near 80 bucks or 90 bucks or 99 bucks, whatever if you pay full price. Which if you pay full price for anything at Harbor Freight, don't, because all you have to do is go on your phone and find a 20% off coupon. They're all over. Really simple to get. It seems to have enough power to get most everything done. I would say this here, it's warm. You know, it's cool enough to the touch now. It hasn't been that long since I did it. It's still fairly warm, but I can touch it with my bare hands right up here. So this is probably pushing it a little bit, this 1/4 inch, but it'll do it. Just take your time. You might need to turn it once or twice. Maybe try and put it in there at an angle or more of a diamond shape so it cuts more like a couple pieces of angle iron. I don't know. I'll play with that some. But quite honestly, I'll do some of this because I do have some projects coming up that are going to have some more of this big stuff involved. But it's still better than what I had before and where I can afford it. I can't afford a $300 machine. I just can't. For 300 bucks, I would just keep on doing it the way I've been doing it and make it work. For 80 bucks, it's time to step up and buy something a little better for me. So that's kind of how I choose my machines. I know this has probably been longer than I planned on, so I will probably be fast forwarding through the cuts. I will put up another video of the actual time for the cuts. If you want to go watch that, go look for it. It'll probably be put up at the same time this one, so they should be back to back on my channel. So go check out my channel. The welding table, I'm not done with it, so there will be more coming up with that. I have a welding card I'm in the middle of. Lots of actual welding projects that had to be yet again put on the back burner because of other projects I got going on. So all in all, I'm happy with it. It seems to work. It has enough power. It maybe could use a little more when you're going through some big stuff, but it was perfect for everything I did. That round bar was pretty thick and it cut through it just fine. The bed frame, a lot of bed frames are harder material than you would imagine. Tried drilling. Some of them, they're not all created equal. Some aren't as good, some are. But some of them are even almost like hardened, drilling through them and stuff like that. I don't know what this is, but this is what I've been using for a lot of stuff. So it's what I need to cut at the time. All in all, happy with it. Hopefully this isn't too long a video. Hopefully you stayed through it if it was, and I appreciate that. Alright, this is Sam, Jack of all, and obviously Master of none. You all have a good one.